Ohio's learning standards for world languages and cultures. These are actually going into effect for the next school year, but we're going to go ahead and start working with them. The world languages and cultures standards are divided up by cultures goals and communication goals. And the standards themselves kind of intertwine both the cultures and communications so that students are building intercultural communicative competence. And then also, if you were to look at them a little bit more closely, you'd see that they are very closely aligned to the English language arts standards. So we're also building those literacy skills that are important in every subject area. This year for Spanish 2, we are going to use something called the grid method. We decided to use this method. It's different than what they would have experienced in Spanish 1, but we decided that the grid method would be very useful in any of the learning scenarios, whether we're in all-in or in a hybrid model or in remote learning. This grid method provides a consistent structure that will help the students in whatever learning scenario we're in. So with this method, it promotes autonomous, self-paced learning, and then the teacher is acting more as a facilitator in the learning process rather than teaching directly all the time. Through this method, students develop proficiency and demonstrate mastery of concepts and skills before they move on to the next level of the unit. So we don't want to be leaving students behind who never really grasped a particular concept. With this method, we allow students who are working ahead to do enrichment while others are catching up. Students complete learning opportunities in which they practice vocab, grammar, and communication skills. And the teacher provides one-on-one guidance as students move through the learning opportunities. As I said before, students who work ahead will have the opportunity for enrichment, either by completing a project or they might serve as peer collaborators in the classroom helping their classmates. In each class period, we will have whole group instruction and interaction still, and then also a little bit of individual and collaborative work. So we aren't getting rid of the whole group instruction, it's just dividing our time a little bit differently. The amount of homework your student will have will depend a lot depending on how much they're able to accomplish in the classroom. So here you see an example grid for our first unit. On the left-hand side, you'll see a glossary of terms for both the Spanish and English terms to follow along. Students would start with Nivel 1, that's level 1 on the very bottom, and they work through each activity in order. And once they complete those activities, then they would have an assessment at the end called a prueba, and they would need to achieve a minimum score of 70% in order to move on to the next activities. So through this process, your students have opportunities to retake quizzes to demonstrate their mastery of a concept before they're forced to move on. And then they move up through the levels, level 1, then 2, and then 3 is the summative assessment, a unit IPA. The IPA is a format that they should be familiar with from level 1, where they are tested in their interpretive, interpersonal, and presentational skills. All students must complete levels 1, 2, and 3. Students who work ahead will have the opportunity to do level 4 for enrichment. This would be either doing a project or they can serve as peer collaborators, as I said before, with their classmates to help them out. And through teaching their classmates, they also, that helps reinforce their understanding of the concepts. You'll see that the activities that are highlighted in orange, those are summative activities, whereas the white learning opportunities are formative. So that's the grid method in a nutshell, but if you have any questions, there's a link to parent commonly asked questions, and then you're also, of course, always welcome to contact me to talk more about your student and how to best help them. Thank you. Here I wanted to show you what your student might expect to see in Google Classroom when it comes to assignments for the year. This is the teacher view, but it should be pretty similar for your students as well. So first we have the stream, and I'll be honest, thinking back last spring, sometimes going through this stream, it gets a little bit overwhelming. So I would recommend that your students look at classwork, because those are divided into topics. So for instance, whenever your student needs to join Zoom, so if they are on a day when they're learning from home, they would just use this Zoom link. It's going to be the same each time. They just need to make sure that they sign in with their name and video so I can confirm that it's them. So they'll use that same Zoom link posted, and then you'll see that the Unidad Uno, the first unit activities, these are all posted. So first we have the grid that I showed you. So your student can access that. They have vocabulary. This is the student tracking document that we'll be using. You'll need to open this sheet in Google Sheets, and your student is going to enter their username. Their username can be anonymous, or it can be something that is easily traced to them. Either way is okay. I'll have a list of their usernames, but if they want some privacy from other students, they can make a more anonymous username. So each day your student is going to update this document. So for instance, if they are working on the first learning opportunity, they would say working. When they then finish it, they would mark it as finished. If they have a question and need help, they put need help. Or if they just need some work checked, they can select check me. And then that way, whether they're in class or at home, I know how they're doing, and I can help them out. Also, some students aren't very comfortable raising their hand, so this is a good way for them to privately ask for help when they need it. So again, those are the materials listed for each unit, and then under those we also have each level in the grid. So if you open up the level, there are the four learning opportunities for those students to complete, and then when they finish them, they'll submit them, and then they'll schedule their assessment with me.